Welcome to the Hope of Thing, a podcast where we will discuss how the Youth and Police Initiative will help improve the youth and police relations across the USA. I'm Melissa Atkins, the Training and Development Coordinator for the Native Learning Center. Today on the show, we are excited to have Dave Smith, YPI National Director, and Julie Barrett D. Brito, YPI Director of Operations. Would the two of you like to formally introduce yourselves?
Thank you, STOF, for hosting us today. We want to thank those who will join and listen in on the podcast. We appreciate that time that you're taking to learn about our program. And we certainly want to thank the Seminole Tribe of Florida and the Native Learning Center for this invitation. We're very excited to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're very happy to have the both of you here today, and hopefully we'll have more podcasts.
Yes, and I'll just add that as National Director for the Youth and Police Initiative, my role is really to help in expanding the program and marketing and fundraising and strategic development of program activities. I'm my last time working, I'm a career-long nonprofit executive. I was president of Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City for 25 years and retired. But before I did, I brought YPI into the organization and the city. It's still going strong almost 5 years later. And so I was asked to join YPI in that role that I mentioned to you. So I'm a Floridian now, having transitioned here in my career after my formal career. I'm in Hollywood, Florida, right where the Seminole Tribe is headquartered. So we are anxious to expand the program and share it with as many locations across the country as possible. And we'll look forward to that.
And I'm going to introduce myself as well. Briefly, my name is Julie Barrett de Brito. I am the YPI Director of Operations. I've been involved with YPI for the last almost 5 years now. First, implementing the program in Wisconsin, where I am calling you from. I'm based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then I joined our mother organization, the North American Family Institute, first as a master trainer. So a master trainer for us is a trainer of trainer, the person who's going to work with a local group to teach them how to implement the program sustainably so that they can continue the program and make it fit the specific needs that their community has. And then I joined the executive team as a YPI Director of Operations in 2020. So I'm really excited to be with you. And my background is in conflict, violence, and development. So I've worked in South Sudan during the Third Civil War. I've worked in communities that were systematically in difficult situations. And then I have been in the US for the last 5 years as well.
Well, welcome both of you. I cannot say it many as I just can't stop saying it. I'm so excited for this conversation. I can't wait to dive in. So with that being said, let's dive in. Can you give us an overview of the YPI?
Well, I'll just share that, again, we are a part of the NAFI organization, North American Family Institute. That's our parent company. They're a Boston-based organization, almost 50 years old, and they provide human services programming in several states, and they specialize in family, youth, children, and adult services, residential-based, treatment-based, and prevention, which is where the Youth and Police Initiative sits in the organization as a prevention-based organization. YPI has operated since about 2003, and we have operated in many locations, almost 38 different ones across the state. There's a heavy emphasis in the Northeast area of the country for YPI, but we have operated in Bermuda and Belize in the past, as well as other cities across the country. And I don't know if Julie's going to show our little PowerPoint that viewers can follow along with us as we share more about the program, and we'll share our mission and philosophy with you there, Julie. The program is a unique partnership with law enforcement, and we've found that once we expose the police officers and the youth, there's tremendous shifts and changes in attitudes that occur. And one of the beauties of the program is we can target it to the needs of individual communities and neighborhoods and police departments. So it's community-based in approach. And the participants usually are from areas where there's a strong police contact. And those police who patrol those communities and neighborhoods know the young people, and the young people know who the police are. So it's a great opportunity to bridge that, the worlds and bring them together.
While I was on your website, I did notice you had some statistics on there regarding between teenagers and police officers and the impact of having YPI and having them mingle and such. And I saw that for the teenagers, it was amazing percentage saying that they felt more comfortable, that they felt they had at least a police officer that they could refer to. How do you guys get those statistics? Is that what you were talking about, the improvement, or is this a completely, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
Exactly. And we do have very high results over the course of the trainings in terms of police who value the youth's perspective. Unlike before the trainings, they would feel that it was not a good use of time and resources to engage with young people in that manner, but that shifts heavily. And likewise, the young people, for instance, talk about, now they know at least one police officer who they could relate to and identify and potentially, get support and help from. And typical responses are the police are really cool, and they understand where I'm coming from as a youngster, as an adolescent, and they said they feel comfortable talking with police officers.
If I may add, Dave, to that, like, just so that we can tell like a little bit about like what it feels to be in the room. So the way we get our statistics is by providing pre-surveys to our youth and police participants right before the program starts. And then we have the same survey and we administer it at the very end of the program. And the change is really incredible. On the first day of the program, everyone is pretty uncomfortable because you're walking into a new space. You're not entirely sure what's going to happen. And we're asking our young people who have had negative police contact, to step into a place where they're going to share who they are as people, maybe speak about difficult experiences that they've had. So on day one, more often than not, our young people will convey pretty negative perceptions on police officers, like, it's a little bit awkward on day one. And then the shift that you can see on day 5, when we focused on day 5, we do a lot of role plays and scenarios. And we always take a bit of time to think about like, hey, you remember how you were feeling on day 1 and how you feel now. And the change is drastic, and it's drastic not only in our young people, but in our officers as well. We have officers coming with like crossed arms a little bit, body language is showing that maybe they were told to be there, assigned to be a part of the program, and they weren't sure what they were walking into. And at the end, arms are all open, people are laughing, and even if we are like having very difficult conversations about police brutality or about systemic racism, there is genuinely a creation of a bond that's quite impressive to witness. So our statistics show that, and when you are in a room, it's night and day.
So the YPI goals are to break down stereotypes, as you see, to increase mutual understanding between youth and police, so that we build this new trust and positive relationship between youth, the police, and the community. And we give youth new ways to understand, perceive, and deal with police authority. We all know the historical ways that police and youth have interacted by and large, and those have been not positive, or those have been condescending or disrespectful on both sides at times. But certainly the power and influence police bring to the situation can intimidate young people and lead to difficult situations. So we help young people approach and by understanding more about police officers and their thinking to work through any of these possible situations. Also, we provide the police with a new understanding of youth that they encounter, which heretofore they don't have. They haven't been able to appreciate the perspectives of young people and where they're coming from and how they feel. And we know that when that interaction happens, it just blows away those previous perceptions and opens the door for, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, we have an exercise in the training that challenges the kids and police to share choices they've made in their lives. And what they find out is the young people find out that the police are human too and did dumb stuff, and were maybe regretting some of those experiences and behaviors. And on the same token, by the same token, the police see themselves in these kids. They see that, yeah, I did that. I was not thinking right, or I didn't make the right decisions. And so, it's sort of a restorative process where, each side comes clean and then they start over by learning, okay, since we're, coming from a similar situation, many of the backgrounds are the same or similar for these young people. And I'm certain that in Indian country, the same effect would occur.
Yes, I would say, like most of our youth, the outlook on police is not always positive.
Right.
So it is greatly appreciated to know that the YPI does exist and actually brings the community together, not just, your police officers and the people being affected by it. On the website, when I was reading about the statistics, I saw a quote from a police officer named Cynthia, and she said, "It gives the youth a way to see us as the people that we are and not the uniforms that we wear." I thought that was such a powerful message, and I love that it was on your website, like right there for everybody to see. I think that's what we need in Indian country. I think we need to break the barrier, and we need to have everybody realize, like, okay, you're human, I'm human, we're the same, we have a common goal. How do we get there? How do we, create a safe and happy community for all? So I'm very excited to hear more of your process of how you break the barrier. And within 5 days, you were able to break the tension like dramatically. And that is incredible.
Absolutely. Thank you. So part of the experience is to model and practice leadership and public speaking skills. I mentioned that choices exercise. Well, the young people actually prepare to present that information when the police join the training. They share that with them. So they practice it for 3 days. They stand up and we help them with delivering their story, which is a outcome of the experience for the kids and the growth process. We want to develop plans to continue these relationships that have been built through training, the appreciation and understanding that have been developed through the training. So it's important to have follow-up activities with police and young people in that community. It could be, social outings. It could be rap sessions, mentoring, just to build on that experience and to see it go forward and grow positively more and more. So it's not like, well, you were in the training, thanks and goodbye. It is important to sustain that because we really want to reduce arrest and decrease violence and delinquency overall. And it just helps to reinforce that messaging and the importance of it and what the training has provided, to both parties.
I usually present YPI as that first stepping stone to build that bridge between young people and officers. And we all know that one stone doesn't make a bridge. So we always want to make sure at the end of each program that we focus on developing those action plans so that the positive relationship can be furthered and more steps can be added to that bridge. More stones can be added
More
to that
steps.
bridge. Yes, not more steps. We don't want more steps.
I like that analogy though, the stones. I would like to think that we're both adding the stones together and helping build the bridge versus, just one person is just constantly at the bridge. It takes both sides.
Absolutely.
So I really am enjoying hearing about the process of how you bring these activities. Like a cookout could really go a long way. It seems like that's like one way to kind of get them out of the uniform, or maybe keep the uniform on, but kind of a different experience.
Well, and again, the skills development that comes from the program is important for young people. Julie, we can share some of the youth council results, Lisa, that we just encountered with a group this past weekend we've been working with. So, their personal development and sense of worth and value come out when they can demonstrate expertise and knowledge and conquer some of those things that we want them to learn. But also the flexibility of our training allows communities to sort of pinpoint where the youth participants come from and what area of communities the program would be most effective in. The curriculum is very disciplined in nature, but it picks up on local kinds of characteristics that we determine. There is that to tailor it to local situations. We talked about the follow-up activities, and that's key for partnerships with local organizations. As I mentioned, I ran a Boys and Girls Club, so it was a perfect follow-up partnership with the police because of the programs and the facilities and the activities that are provided young people in a community. So this could be any kind of organization. It could be resources and activities that the police departments have. So we want to help organizations locally develop and connect, for this follow-up. We really want to respect the young people's voice on this and help them to appreciate the importance of that voice. They have the respect and vice versa with the police. So Julie can get into the structure you ask about how we impact to the training. So Julie.
Yes. So I'd love to tell you a tiny bit more about how the program is structured and like some of the things that we do during those 5 days that will bring our young people and our officers from their day 1 feelings and perception to their day 5 feelings and perceptions. And one thing that you mentioned as well that I wanted to touch base on, you mentioned, like building that bridge with the officers in or out of uniforms. And we do have officers who come in uniforms to participate in our programs. And I'd love to tell you a tiny bit more why we do it that way. So our program for the in-person program is a 5-day long program. We did create an online version of it during the pandemic because we saw that there was a huge need for police and youth to get together and speak about police brutality at that time. However, it was not safe for people to do that in person. So we developed a curriculum. We actually created a committee that included police officer participant, that included youth graduates, so YPI graduates from our program, and trainers. And together, we created a curriculum for an online program. We have here the layout of the online program. The layout of the in-person program is very similar, but you know how it is on Zoom. We didn't want to ask our young people and officers to spend 2.5 hours every day. So we asked them to spend 2 hours with us. So from day 1 to day 3, we have our trainers working with our young people without police officer participants. So the goal for those first 3 days is first to kind of create a sense of community. So try to get to know each other on a personal level. Try to understand where our young people are at when it comes to their feelings about police, their experiences with police, what they've seen online, what they've seen in person, maybe what they've been through already. so that we can really try and build off of what our young people already are bringing to the table. We have a lot of icebreakers and exercises that are focused on team building, focused on nonverbal communication, right? It is really hard to look at someone in the eye when you don't know them, especially when you're speaking about intense topics, right? So we have some activities that help us do that and help us build some sense of trust amongst our participants. On day 2, we really focus on breaking down stereotypes and practicing public speaking, exploring individual choices. So Dave mentioned it. We have an exercise that's really important in the program, which is a choice exercise. And it follows some principles of restorative justice, really having a look at choices that you made, who was affected by those choices, and how can you correct them. So one thing that we tell our young people is that we're going to hold a stage, and it is their job to come and take that stage so that they can tell their story. And we want to help them organize that story so that they feel confident in the way they're going to deliver it to the officers who are going to join them on day 4 and 5. So a tip that we give our young people is that nobody's perfect. So if you give choices that are only positive choices, it's going to be hard to get to know you, right? But you don't want to focus on only the negative, because nobody's the worst. And it turns out we can learn a lot from some choices that maybe we've made and regretted afterwards. So we practice that. We have a look at ways to captivate your audience, ways to convey your point to grown-ups, right? And our role as trainers, our role as implementers is really to make sure that we are balancing the power dynamics that exist between young people and officers, right? So young people are very often talked at. They're told what to do, and when they might do something that's not exactly expected or wanted, then they're like, reprimanded for it. When we have officers come, we want to make sure that the power dynamics are changed and that youth and officers are at the same level as much as we can. They are both participating and they are both expected to learn and teach. So we saw that really on day 2. On day 3, we have a focus on self-image, stereotype. We prepare our presentation, and for our in-person program, we actually focus on social media. So, I mean, we live in 2023, and we know that social media is such a big part of our young people's life. And there is a lot of things that are happening on social media and that you can see on social media about police officers, right? So our goal is not at all to tell our young people what to think about what they see, but more to give them tools so that they can break down what they see and make up their mind on what's available on social media. So we basically have a look at police and youth interactions that are available on social media, on Facebook and TikTok, and we break it down. And we try to focus on de-escalation and escalation, those two concepts. So when we have a look at the video, we go, okay, did the officer escalate or de-escalate the situation? The young person escalate or de-escalate the situation? And then what would you do differently? So we really try to break it down so that we can learn ways to keep our young people safe when they interact with police officers, to give them power of agency and increase their knowledge on police procedures so that they understand why police officers do what they do in certain situations. So, of course, then we get to our day 4, and day 4 and 5 for our in-person programs is when we have officer participant join us. So day 4 in the program is when we focus on a concept that's called, cognitive dissonance. So really playing with the idea of having two conflicting ideas about one specific thing in your brain, and it's that discomfort that it creates, right? So we have a group of officers who join us on day 4 in uniform. So it's very, very impressive, right? Like you have a line of officers coming. You do not know them necessarily. And we ask our young people one by one to stand up and tell their story to the officers. And our goal is really to have the officers be mind blown by the courage and level of authenticity that our young people demonstrate in front of them. The way I tend to present this part of the program is that we have our young people go first because the officers are joining us with no idea of what they're supposed to do. So they actually have to look at our young people for guidance. So our young people will go, and then we will ask our officers to reciprocate. And this is where we really do what Cynthia was speaking about on our website. We ask officers not to speak about police procedures or anything like that. We ask them to tell us about choices that they made. We ask them to tell us about the person that they are when they don't have the uniform on and when they have the uniform on. So once we do that, we can really, really get to know each other on a personal level. We stop being that officer in uniform or that youth with the hoodie, and we start having first names, and we start having stories behind those uniforms, behind those stereotypes that people might have. So once this work is done, we continue with team building games and exercises. We have a game that's actually really fun and very, very practical when it comes to speaking about stereotypes that people suffer from and self-image. And it's basically a YPI version of the Family Feud game. And then we have all our officers play against all our young people. All of the answers that they have to find are answers that were provided by our participants themselves. And we use those moments to speak about the effect of stereotypes on young people and officers. How does that make officers feel to know that they are hated by a lot of people, for instance? How does that make a young person feel to be considered a troublemaker without even being, asked to say anything? So we use a lot of activities that help us keep the energy up and have very important conversations. Last but not least, one of the best ways to break stereotypes is to walk in someone else's shoes. So our last day, we focus on role plays and scenarios. We ask our participants themselves to talk about common scenarios that they've seen happen between young people and officers. And based on that, we do a reverse role play. So officers become teenagers, and I can tell you, they always bring it. Officers are very good at portraying teenagers. And then we ask our teenagers to become the officers, and we replay situations that they've experienced so that our officers can remember what it feels to be 15, 16, 17, and not necessarily having all the power that you wish you had when it comes to making your own decisions. And then we have our young people in a situation where they have to solve a crisis. And sometimes it's really overwhelming. And everything that we do is focused on trying to understand where the other one is coming from and trying to learn from each other so that officers can do a better job at speaking with young people, and young people can have more knowledge on why officers do what they do. Last but not least, we always want to finish with a big celebration, because it is not easy to walk in a space and do the work that our young people and officers do, and we want to value that. So we want to make sure we invite community members, we invite mayors, we invite police chiefs to join and congratulate our young people in the amazing work that they're doing building bridges, and same for our officers. So one thing that we said as well is that at this point, we want to make sure that we speak on the next stones that we're going to put on that bridge. So every single YPI has its own action plan, so that, you might have a group that's really into basketball, and then maybe a very natural follow-up to our YPI is for the team to meet up every month for a basketball game. But you might have a group that's way more into movies, and then maybe you're going to have like a little outing for the next Wakanda movie so that you can all go and watch it together. So we take some time so that we can speak about future interactions, so that, as Dave was saying, it's not okay, spend 5 days with us and goodbye. We want to make sure that initial intense work doesn't go unnoticed for the future interactions.
I really appreciate that it's not like a transaction based, like you said, 5 days. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Have a good day. I like that you have a plan, that you follow up, and you encourage participation. I have one quick question. In this situation, it does seem like it could get a little tense when you have the teenagers and police officers facing each other and telling each other stories. Has there been any tense moments, and do you have any key anything that you do to help de-escalate the situation?
Absolutely. I can tell you that day 4, you can sense the tension in the room, but we don't necessarily want to shy away from it because it can have a very positive and powerful effect on our group. So at the very, very beginning of day 4, when our officers enter the room, it's pretty quiet. And then our young people go one by one telling their stories. And I can tell you, once our young people are done, there is such a change in dynamic, and the tension that was felt at the beginning is usually transformed by the power that our young people's stories have, and the number of times that I've had officers crying in front of young people saying, I cannot believe that you stood up in front of me and you told me some of the choices that you've made. We've had officers say, like, I can see myself in you, I can see my children in you. And so the tension that is in the room is not necessarily negative. It actually, like you're just falling from higher. And then more often than not, officers are just speechless, and they are inspired by the level of genuinity. If it's not an English word, you get my meaning, right? Like
I
honesty.
got you. I know what you're trying to say. Genuine.
Yeah. The level of honesty that young people have, and they reciprocate, which means that we've had officers say things that they never thought they would share just because they feel that it is their duty to honor the honesty of our young people and to reciprocate by being honest themselves. We've never had any type of tension that escalated into physical altercation, not at all, because we really have, as Dave was saying, a very structured curriculum that is created so that we really avoid those situations. And we have professional trainers leading the program who have many, many tools at their disposals. So we have never, ever had tension that was not positively used by the training and the trainers themselves.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. It makes perfect sense to me. I love how you redirect the energy and you're like, no, positive. So I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, some of that is set up at the beginning with the ground rules, so to speak, that we help the young people and the police adhere to. So not talking over one another, not being, subjective about a person's feelings or sharing or, so it is important to set that stage early, and you can direct back to those principles, during the training.
Absolutely. We've actually had, like I was speaking about, like changing the dynamic and the power dynamic in the room. That what Dave is mentioning are like norms, group norms or agreements are defined by the group itself. And then we are all in agreement that if we see someone breaking it, we will kindly remind them of it. So I've had several times young people remind officers of a rule, of an agreement that they came up with. And it's very interesting because we're switching the dynamic. We become a community and we're all agreeing that we're going to treat each other with respect, and we define what respect is.
Yeah, I think we, Julie, should share the trainer of trainers model in terms of what that consists of, and how how that is really the long-term tool the community has once they participate in this training. So kind of we can describe that and then share, the results and benefits. So this is what we really recommend communities to consider taking on. It's really the long-term impact opportunity.
Yeah. Dave, do you want me to say a few words about it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So YPI, as we were saying, is a 5-day program, right? But with that 5-day program, you are making a change for 12 to 15 youth and 5 to 8 officers at the time. The challenge is that with just the YPI, you are not necessarily focusing on local capacity building and sustainability. So that's why we have a train-the-trainer program. And with that, we really have in mind the local needs of each community and the sustainability, the impact that YPI can have on a long-term basis. So with this, We basically will partner with a local community, and we will work with that community for 10 to 12 months. And over the course of that year that we're working together, we will implement 4 separate YPI cohorts. So that means 4 times 12 to 15 teenagers and 5 to 8 officers going through the program and graduating. And at the same time, we actually will train a local group of up to 6 people to become certified YPI trainers. So
wow.
You have basically, it's a two-way approach. On one side, you have a critical mass of youth and police that are buying into and transmitting the values of YPI because they're going through the program as participants. And on the other side, you are focused on sustainability because you have a local group of 6 people who slowly but surely would take more of a leadership role in implementing the program, to the point that by the last YPI we implement together, we have our trainers of trainers hoping to see the local team run the show. And throughout our 12 months, we have a mix of learn by doing, right? Try it out. We are here to help you. We're here to make sure that you are following our curriculum, that the fidelity to the model is there, and that you're fitting the needs of your community. And then we have moments of like workshop and coaching that happen outside of the YPI program. So without youth or officer participant involved. And then we just want to make sure that all of our trainers have the knowledge that they need and the skills that they need to be successful in their implementation. So we speak about, trauma-informed facilitation. We speak about adolescent brain development, being a community, being a builder of bridges within your community as a trainer. And that is really what we suggest for every single community that's considering having our program, because you are thinking long term and the knowledge and skills stays with you. You can just continue to implement the program and expand the number of youth and officers who are going through it to the point that you experience what we have seen and call the ripple effect. I don't know, Dave, if you want to mention a little bit more about the ripple effect and what that is for communities.
Yes, that's a very, I think, positive opportunity to create a culture, a change in culture in a community. We have the more, disciples, let's say, who buy into the YPI concept and the training. We've spread across that community attitudes of positiveness toward police, attitudes of positive toward the young people, and that we are not enemies. That there's a healthy respect. And we can see that change occur, and it grows and grows and grows with building that community of YPI participants and graduates. So, but we start that process with the trainers over a year. We start to build that community, and then I want to really be clear that the initial investment to provide the training has many years of continuation in building that community. So like in Kansas City, there must be 300-400 kids in that community who have gone through the experience, and there may be 40-50 police who participated, and so the news spreads, and you start to see more positive perceptions about the police in general in that community, because the young people's perceptions, they got them from adults and as well as in their own experience. So their parents or relatives or friends or what have you share a lot of that baggage, right?
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity to kind of reframe the narrative and the experience. So that's that ripple effect that can happen. So
thank you for explaining that. That certainly makes a lot more sense for me now, because I'm thinking the ripple effect, but it makes sense because your mom might feel a different way and her opinion is going to affect you. So to have this to kind of break those it's incredible. And I feel like you guys teach the youth how to communicate to the police officers. So
Right.
police officers are actually able to say, "Oh, okay, I hear
Right.
you, I understand you.
Right.
How can we move forward?"
Mhm.
I
Right.
think that's incredible.
You know, I learned of a situation in my hometown this year where an officer uh, um, beat up a kid pretty bad, even after the youngster, you know, got on his knees and raised his hands in you know, saying, "Look, I don't want trouble. I'm whatever you want me to do." Well, he still got his face bashed in,
Mm.
and it cost the department $750,000 to pay out in suit to that family. And I want to be on record. I guarantee you that wouldn't happen if that police officer had been through YPI. It's impossible for that person to have the same attitude that would allow that kind of treatment, uh, you know, after going through YPI. Uh, and I'm sure there's some error, you know, room for error in my guarantee, but I just have to think that it makes all the difference in the world, and it makes sense that you know, you get to know somebody, and or whether it was that kid or a kid who was in the training, it just makes sense that you have a different level of appreciation and understanding. So
It's heartbreaking hearing
Mhm.
those stories,
Mhm.
but you had an excellent point. It's to give them that perspective. It's to get them to step back. Had that officer gone through YPI and had a conversation with the two of you, I would like to think that I don't think that situation would have happened either.
yeah,
Mhm.
From what
Yeah.
I've heard, by day 5, all the officers are wanting to hear more, are wanting to be more engaged, want to change their ways if they feel there needs to be change made, and vice versa. Same for the teenagers. Oh well, maybe I am acting a type of way. Let me dial it back a little bit. Whereas this officer, unfortunately, did not have that.
yeah.
And if we can spread it, how can we ask, how can people go to you guys for help? How can people request your services? How do we get YPI everywhere?
Good question, and we're happy to help with that. We have provided our contact information to you, and we
Link
invite,
below.
yeah, we invite those participants to reach out to us, and we're happy to visit with each of them individually about the potential for this program in their area. Again, the website is going to be very helpful to them to gain further and full appreciation of the structure of the program and some of the results that we've experienced. So we're happy to have follow-up meetings and conversations and encourage that. So that'll get it done. You know, we'll respond.
And
Again, any of the videos and all of that, you know, is there for them to see too.
and I would say it's really starting a conversation with us, because every single YPI is different, because every community is different. So we've had communities that have decided to partner exclusively with probation, and then we have youth on probation going through the program alongside their probation officers and patrol officers. But we've had other locations that have decided to have a very strong community partnership, and it is patrol officers who go through the program with, like, you know, social justice youth organization. So it really, there are many ways for you to bring the program to your community, and it's just a matter of starting that conversation. And we'll make sure that we first want to listen where you are at, what your goals are for youth and police, and then how can we support you to reach those goals using our program.
Right. You know, one other little small point is that the kids really do have a fascination with the police officers. You know, they see the gear on them, and you know, the uniform, of course, and that position of power. It's very common for kids to ask to wear their equipment vest in the trainings. They get that close, and the police officers give them their, you know, their vest, and the kids parade around and that. Yeah, I mean, they really do bond. So we take advantage of that fascination that the kids have with this element, and build on it, so that the respect moves from intimidation and fear into, you know, uh, I know a police officers who really care,
Right.
and so that kind of wipes clean the previous attitude of not getting along or not having mutual respect. So, we leverage that naturally. And then by the same token, I think the police, like you just kind of demonstrated how it touched you, and that's exactly what happens with the police.
It's just I could talk about you guys all day long. I want to make sure we discussed everything you wanted to bring up. I think the only question I didn't ask was why and how to invest in YPI as a community, but I think we did go into that because you guys discussed the long-term benefits. Does that tie into that, or is there something more into investing in YPI in your community that you would like to discuss?
Again, I think we talked about the ripple effect, and that is a result of ongoing participation with police or with police and youth and these partners, where you continue to build and reinforce that attitude, and that's the value of the trainer of trainers model, because it's in play and continues. You have graduates, that affiliate with the program, and so there's all kind of opportunity to recognize the investment both police and youth have put into the program. By the way, each kid gets $100 for participating for the 5.5 days, for the 5 days. So, and they get certificates and and then we provide.
It's just a little initiative to get everybody.
Yeah.
There you go. And the kids really, it becomes secondary to them, I feel. Julie, don't you?
Oh yeah. I was gonna say more often than not, and I always love. Sometimes we have young group of people who have had such negative interactions that it takes a little bit of work to have them walk into that space, right? And one thing that I will ask for our young people is, what's your why? Like, why are you considering being a part of this program? And a lot of them on day one said, like, well, I'm not gonna lie, it's the $100, or I'm not gonna lie, it's the food. And I always tell them, you know what? That motivates everyone. You don't have to, like, that's okay. And I can tell you, every single one of them by day 5 are like, okay, I did join for this, but I came back for something else, right? And there is that transformation. And I do think that it's important to normalize that. It's okay. Like $100 can be a deal breaker. We've had several of our youth who've used that $100 to help their parents paying rent, or like help put food on the table. So it is truly an amazing experience to see our young people go through that process and to see officers go through that process. And I just want to say as well that when it comes to why investing in YPI, I think that Dave touched it as well in very, very real terms. You want to invest in YPI because you want to make a change, right? You want to improve the community. You want your young people to be safe. You want your young people to be able to ask for help when they need to the organization that's there to serve and protect them. You want police officers to have a relationship with young people that can really help them do their job to the best of their abilities. But then if you have a look at it the other way, you want to invest it because the cost of not investing in it is much greater. And the example that Dave gave about this young man in Kansas City, that is the reason why you want to invest in it. Not just because you want to make a change, but it turns out not investing has such cost, human costs, financial costs. And it's just, it's, in my mind, it's a no-brainer. And we are here to help communities reach that goal.
Right. No, I mean, such a powerful message. The YPI is truly needed, and I will do everything in my power to make sure everybody knows about YPI. I will certainly tell everyone. And all of the web links are going to be mentioned down below, so please check out the website. It truly is amazing, and the facts are just, the facts let alone by itself are just incredible. When I was looking at the numbers, I was like, oh my goodness, like 114%. And I have to relook at it, and I was like, oh, this is real. Like, these are real numbers. This is incredible. So thank you both so much once again for joining us today on our Hope a Thanga podcast. Was there anything else you wanted to add real quick before we end it?
No, except we appreciate the opportunity, certainly, and look forward to any locations that have an interest in and even learning a little more and thinking about how it might happen. Um, because whether it's Indian country or urban situations or any ethnic areas in our country, this is an issue because young people, we're in the youth development business, and young people are not valued for their understanding that they want to be productive, that they want to succeed, that they want to have good relationships and be respected, and as such, it's just important for any locale or community to develop this kind of attitude between law enforcement and young people. We know it teeters all the time on tragedy or abuse, and there's data that talks about over policing of youth and kind of disrespectful relationships with young people has a long time effect on these kids into their young adulthood. And so we're really upstream here more than has been. We could be further upstream, in some ways, but being upstream right now, we are investing in a more healthy society and community, and I really believe that because I'm of that mission and philosophy. So we encourage it for the future as well.
I can see the dedication. I can hear the dedication. I can see it. I'm here for it. I support it. I appreciate it from both of you. Thank you so much. I can just hear the way you guys talk about it. When you start talking about the 5-day training, when you start talking about your mission and making a change, if there's anything I could do to help support, please let me know, because it truly is incredible and it is needed. So thank you so much again for your dedication and really discussing the importance of bringing our youth and the police together and squashing all the stereotypes and getting rid of the negativity. It's 2023. Time for a fresh start.
All right. Yeah, let's do it.
All right,
Thank you
well,
so
that brings
much for
our
having us.
episode to an end. Thank you to Dave and Julie for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, thanks for listening. If you enjoy our show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Also, our website, www.nativelearningcenter.com, to find information on upcoming webinars and virtual trainings. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Anytime. Okay.